All right. So this is part three of businesses shutting down in the Jantzen Beach area of Portland. We're going to talk about another couple of the businesses that have shut down. We're going to talk about, we got an article from 2021 that kind of sets up what is going on in this neighborhood. Well, we kind of know what's going on, but now that you've got yet another major chain that the thumbnail the thumbnail I had, it says changing business needs. Excuse me. Changing business needs, such as we no longer need our business to be in this neighborhood, we're taking it elsewhere. They're just shutting one down. They're shutting a big restaurant down. I love BJs. I've talked about BJs. It's a weird name, right? I mean, back in the day, 26 years ago, it still had the same connotation. But you know, who doesn't love a BJ, right? I mean, you always got to go with that joke. BJ's Restaurant, I heard about it from a kid influencer, and they've got a dessert called a pizookie that is just epic. They've also got a really good ribeye steak, and on Fridays and Saturday nights, they've got a what is it? A prime rib that's just, I mean, it's just amazing. So it's a great restaurant, and I enjoy going to it. We've got one here locally in Redmond and Microsoft country. But when I was looking at the other stories, that we got a Cracker Barrel that closed down in Portland, same exact area within a couple of blocks. We also had a, I think it was Stanford Steakhouse, something similar, nice restaurant similar to BJ's. BJ's they've got their own beer. It's kind of an upscale, it's kind of a steakhouse type place, but they've got good food, and I like eating there. So, you know what? I need to get the chat room going here. And where is my chat room? Chats. Hold on one second. Sorry. You know what? I'm going to take a quick intermission here. Hold on one second. We need to get the chats going. Chats were not up and available. But it wasn't up. Sorry about that. Chat issue. Also been having some audio issues, so bear with us. We got something weird going on. Okay, there we go. All right, let's continue this. Sorry about that. Just some technical issues. So back to BJ's Restaurant. It's a great restaurant, and when I was doing the storylines, we've covered Cracker Barrel and we've covered Stanford's, another couple of really good restaurants in the Portland area. And when I was looking at the map, let's just take a quick peek at the map. Here's where we're talking about. So this is Jantzen Beach. This is Hayden Island, and it's in between Oregon and Washington, literally in between. So the area we're talking about is right here. And we've got a Home Depot, we've got a Best Buy, we've got Dennys, and here's BJ's right here. Now, the Cracker Barrel was here, and then also the Stanford was right here. So within a couple of blocks, like you could walk to these places. So now you've got a third big restaurant that has said, yeah, excuse me, we're going to take our business elsewhere, and we're just going to, we're just not operating in this area because you've got rampant break-ins. You've just got everything that we've talked about that makes, commercial business a no-go. And so if you don't have people coming to your restaurants like these restaurants haven't, and you've got other stuff going on, you've got break-ins, you've got security issues, people don't feel safe going into work. You know, big chain says, all right, which are our underperforming, entities? All right, that one in Portland, close her down. So it had a pretty quick closing, like there wasn't much notification. So this is where that is. Let me back out a little bit here so you can kind of see what we've got going on. Here's Vancouver, Washington. This is literally in the middle of the Columbia River. This side is Oregon. This side is Washington. So it's right in the middle. And one of the stories we're going to read kind of indicates, hey, this is a good place to do criminal activity because you're right on the outer reaches of Oregon, and then you're just a hop, skip, and a jump literally over a very short bridge to get into Washington. And then you're kind of running away. Okay. And so we're up here in downtown Portland, Old Town, right? Like where all the protests were happening is kind of right above the Portland here. That's downtown Portland. And so now you've got kind of an idea of where we're sitting. So we're sitting north of downtown Portland by a handful of miles. So let's get into the BJs Restaurant. BJs Restaurant at Jantzen Beach closing down. This is yet another restaurant. We talk about what does this look like? When do the businesses start shutting down? This is the third major one in a very short period of time, because the other ones that we're going to look at is Cracker Barrel. That was last August. That was August 9th of 2022. That's when that article is coming up. And then Stanfords follows Cracker Barrel and closing due to safety concerns. That was in September. So you go August, September, February for three pretty major restaurants. And BJ's is, it's a national chain as well. The Stanford had a couple. It's owned by a company out of here in Bellevue. Doesn't have as many restaurants, but Cracker Barrel, I mean, I've never eaten there, but you guys told me, hey, it's a decent restaurant. It's okay. BJs Restaurant and Brewhouse at Jantzen Beach is set to close permanently on February 21st after 26 years in operation. Parent company confirmed last week. This could also be one of those situations where this restaurant has run its course, right? I mean, let's try and be fair. Let's try and be reasonable. But when you've got these other restaurants, that have already kind of paved the way, that's when you're like, no, this is the trend. You've got too violent of an area. You've got too many things that are impeding business owners from wanting to do business in this area. So now you've got, three pretty major structures, buildings that are just basically available. Who's going to come in and take those spaces? Let's see. Cracker Barrel couldn't do it, Stanford, and now BJ's couldn't do it. We're a small independent company. Let's take a crack at this. Yeah, maybe, but, the lead example here is business like restaurants, especially, more than a Dennys, because Dennys is very close nearby. So is Target and so is Home Depot. So, which one of those is going to shut down? The Target, I know in this area, we'll read about it in just a little bit. The company did not give a reason for the closure in a statement to KGW, saying only that the decision was by no means an easy one. Nobody wants to shut down a business. Nobody, wakes up one day and goes, what the best thing in my life would be is if we just shut down this restaurant right here that I own. That'd be the greatest thing ever. Yeah, I think we'll do that. You might do it. It's kind of like owning a boat. The two happiest days in your life are when the day you buy it and the day you sell it, right? And so it's one of those things where you open up this restaurant and you have all these, hopes and dreams of, this is going to be my living. This is going to do it on the corporate level. Hey, we hope that we make a profit here. We hope that, when you put all things together, it's going to make some profit for our shareholders, that whole kind of thing. And then managers have to get involved and go, okay, guys, we got to shut this bad boy down. And so by no means is it an easy one. Nope. And encourage customers to visit other BJ's locations in the area. Oregon has another two, I think it was, Eugene and maybe Hillsboro, somewhere like that. Yeah, we're going to get to in a second. The company only operates two other Oregon restaurants, according to its website, one in Hillsboro and one in Eugene. although it does also have 4 restaurants throughout the Puget Sound area in Washington. I really only know of one here in Redmond that I go to. But I've heard a lot of people talk about BJ's, and I enjoy going there. An internal memo sent to restaurant staff and shared with KGW didn't offer much more specificity. That's a tricky word. Stating only that the closure is expected to be permanent due to changing business needs. I found that to be a really interesting way to state this. Changing business. So the business needs more safety. The business needs less break-ins. The business needs less riffraff running around this area, stealing from businesses, stealing from residents. This is a mainly commercial area that we're talking about right here, but it's gone the wrong way. It's been kind of the epicenter for, the behavior we're talking about. And a lot of this is drug driven. This is people getting, money for their next fix. It's organized retail theft, and a lot of that has to do with people getting their next fixed. So due to changing business needs, and again, I go with, we don't need to be here. We are out of here. We need to be gone. That's kind of what they're saying. And that's literally what they're doing. Only giving kind of a couple of weeks notice here and offering staff a bonus for staying until February 21st. And an opportunity to transfer Hillsboro or other BJ's locations. That's very nice of them. I don't know how much better the Hillsboro is, but I do know that this specific location that they're in, it is on the downward trend, folks. It is going like this. It's not looking up. The closure marks the 3rd high-profile departure of a Jantzen Beach restaurant along North Center Avenue in the past year, following Cracker Barrel and Stanfords last summer. Both of those closures were specifically attributed to safety and security concerns, not only for their patrons, but for their employees, for anybody, their food delivery companies, anybody was at, risk, was at physical risk that their security needs weren't being met. And so you take those and you move them out. Move them out. But BJ's made no reference to safety issues in either its public statement or its internal memo. And you know what? You can go down that road and try and be, take the high road, not specifically state it, but I think people need to know. Hey, the reason we're leaving, brutal honesty, is that nobody felt safe here. There's too many break-ins and we don't have the police presence to cover this. So, we're just not going to play this game anymore. Business gone. And I talk about that fairly often. You've got a couple of options. Businesses can jack up your prices. All right. Yep, they can do that. Or they can close. They can struggle along to the point where they close. So what do you think? What do you think the next business? Let's go back to the Hayden Island. What do you think the next business is that I'm going to podcast on that'll close here? I mean, you hate to be a vulture, but when things are going this direction, is it going to be Dennys? Dennys is right next door, right? Okay, so we've got Dennys is used to working in lower socioeconomic neighborhoods, right? They've made kind of a career out of that, just being able to get through in some tough neighborhoods. So I'd say that's probably a no-go. Sierra, that's a department store, how they've stayed alive this long. We've got Home Depot. I mean, that'll probably be there till the end, right? Best Buy. How about Best Buy? I could see Best Buy shutting down. I mean, electronics, yeah. And there's also a Target somewhere right here. I'm not sure. I'm not seeing it now, but I saw it earlier, and it's one of the other articles. So which one of these, Holiday Inn Express? All right, how's that working out? How's that going? How's your occupancy doing? How are the rooms? How are the rooms after some of the folks that, regularly visit these businesses and, do their nefarious activities? How are the rooms at the Holiday Inn Express? And you never wish ill will against these businesses, but this is what you get. This is what you pay for. This is what you pay for. One of the last things I'm going to show you in today's live stream is there's a big homeless encampment in Seattle. It's right by the University Bridge. It's the Ship Canal Bridge. It's right by the University of Washington. Big encampment. I don't know. Is there 30 tents under there? It's underneath the freeway. So Washington State Department of Transportation owns the land, and they're saying, nope, city's got to clear it out. We don't have the infrastructure to clear it out. And this encampment has had just violence, fires, murders, you name it, it's gone on. Shootings, it's just crazy. Yesterday, they had a hearing on this homeless encampment. The neighbors in the area with kids are like, this is out of control. This is wildly out of control. We need this encampment gone. So they had a hearing on this yesterday afternoon. And then last night, just after midnight, they had a major fire in the encampment. And so the fire, and I'm going to show you the video, they're literally from this fire, fireworks are shooting out onto the northbound express lanes of Interstate 5. You got fireworks shooting out onto I-5. Just picture that. Like, oh, okay. You're driving northbound on I-5 after midnight. Where are you going? Don't know. What are you doing? Yeah, whatever. Maybe you're a truck driver. I don't know. But then all of a sudden, you've got fireworks, coming across your hood. That's literally the experience that some people had last night in Seattle. And we wonder why people want these homeless encampments cleared out. I mean, so don't leave this live stream because I've got important stuff to show you. I've got fireworks launching across. It's not a ton. It's more like, it's not like I'm not sure which of the fireworks, but shooting out like a repeater. You know what I mean? Just boo, 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 but across the freeway. Those are my fireworks sounds. So just some wild stuff going on. And people are, just let the encampments go. They're fine. They're not hurting anybody. No, but they're launching fireworks onto a freeway. Oh, okay. Well, all right. So both of those closures, the closures we're talking about, Cracker Barrel and Stanfords, attributed to safety and security concerns, but BJ's made no reference. All right, they're taking the high road. But people need to know what's going on. Why are you closing this store down? Well, because none of our employees felt safe there and we weren't making any money because nobody would come there. So therefore, we are shutting down. There have been some business openings at Jantzen Beach in the past year. Floor and Decor opened up shop in a new building at the side of the former Safeway on North Jantzen Street. And JB's Chicken Palace opened up in the former Hooters building next door. I know there's Hooters out there. There's none here in my area at all. Is that still a thing? I don't know. I mean, that whole concept to me is like, all right, if they build it, they will come. But it's my understanding that JB's Chicken Palace has really ramped up security in the forms of possibly having, armed security guards. So, hey, let's go to JB's Chicken Palace and we'll eat some chicken. But that guy over there with the gun, he's going to keep us safe because this whole area here, it's headed in a wrong direction. And you never want to just kill a business area with bad stigma. But this is one of those areas when you've got 3 major companies that have taken the nosedive. What do you say? Things are looking up. Things are looking good. Hey, we're on the upswing here. Only 3 have shut down. And, and you've got Safeway next door and then you got Hooters that, used to be there. This is a transitional area. And by transitional, I mean, companies leaving left and right. Let's check out the Cracker Barrel. Security issues prompt abrupt closure of Jantzen Beach Cracker Barrel. I've already podcasted on both of these stories, so I'm not going to go through them all entirely because, you can check out those podcasts you want, but we're going to hit on some of the, major concerns. Employees told KGW the decision to shutter the restaurant was announced to staff Monday, and security issues are to blame. All right. Well, okay. So, and by security issues, you mean people breaking in. So there's that, right? I mean, that's what you're talking about. A man and woman looking for a bite to eat Tuesday morning were shocked to find the Jantzen Beach Cracker Barrel closed and boarded up. Others who live and work in the area were just as surprised. What's going on? Asked Steve Goodwin. KGW reached out to Cracker Barrel to find out, and the company confirmed that the Jantzen Beach restaurant had been shut down. KGW yesterday, I did a podcast. One of the stories was they went out to a pretty well-known homeless encampment in Portland, and they got out there and they were doing totally another different story. And there was, they literally witnessed a shooting, an argument, two people were arguing, and all of a sudden, crack, you have that gunfire. And then the guy who got shot, he limps off into the forest because he got shot in the leg. Just another day in Portland, just another shooting. But, let the homeless people live wherever they want because they're not hurting anybody. Fireworks, shootings, fires in tents. As a standard course of business, we continue to evaluate the performance of our stores using various criteria to ensure we are meeting the needs of our guests and our business. So based on that, Cracker Barrel said, no. And this was the first of the majors that kind of shut down here. One of the comments here is there's a lot of theft, people on drugs. So this is all tied in to the decriminalization of drugs and then the decriminalization of activities that are now used to support said drug habits. You got, kind of a double whammy there. And so from that standpoint, these other businesses, they're suffering as well because you've got this kind of stuff going on in these areas and people don't want to go do their fine dining there. I was thinking the other day, my girlfriend and I, we used to go over to Seattle. Believe it or not, we would go over to Seattle to eat fairly often because there's just way bigger variety of restaurants in Seattle than where I live here, which is in the burbs. We've only got a handful. It was typically like a breakfast we were looking for. We used to go over to Seattle, over near the Space Needle, pretty often. We used to go over to Madison Park pretty often, which is another, nicer neighborhood. But we don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore because we don't want to deal with the riffraff of, leaving my car in the parking lot of the restaurant and having it be broken into. Don't want to deal with panhandlers on the way into the restaurant, or something just crazy happening, or homeless people lined up and down the sidewalk. Not to say that they're near every restaurant, but if you got a handful of those, you just don't want to be around that, right? You just don't want to deal with that. So you don't go to those restaurants. I no longer patron, restaurants where I've got any kind of, hindrance to my dining opportunity because I want to go park, not worry about my car, not worry about my stuff, whatever it might be. Go in, eat, have a decent dining experience and leave and go home all, safely. That should just be a given. Jantzen Beach, Hayden Island in Portland, that's not happening on a big scale. So if you're new to this channel and you're wondering, why is he covering this so much? Because this is indicative of where this marketplace is, which is our business needs are not being met. We're going to have to go look for another location. And you might argue, well, businesses come and go. That's what happens. But you got three pretty big ones within a very small geographic area, all saying, not today, not in the near future. We are temporarily closing. All right. So that was, so we've got BJs, we've got Cracker Barrel, and then the second one to close was Stanfords, follows Cracker Barrel in closing due to safety concerns. Temporary Stanfords closure comes about 2 months after the nearby Cracker Barrel shut its doors, reportedly due to similar safety and security concerns. Stanford's Restaurant and Bar in Jantzen Beach is temporarily closed. They went down the, we might open back up. We might be back at this in the near future. We're just not really sure. So we're going to temporarily close down. And we had a lot of that during the pandemic, but this was after all of that. This is literally just not that many months ago. And so then, having BJ's shut down, it's kind of like the trifecta. It's like, okay, yeah, we have truly hit kind of a ledge here where we're like, all right, this is a major trend. This isn't just a couple of small businesses, getting out of there because you can only have so many break-ins and, you're not going to be able to, you just can't do what you need to do. There's so many insurance issues, especially for these major corporations. They got a lot of money. The overhead on these big restaurants is massive. Just the booze bill alone is massive. You got people breaking in and doing that, and you got your insurance company writing up your rear end going, all right, guys, you had 4 break-ins. We covered you on the last 3, and you opted out not to have a payout for that number 4. But moving forward, you guys are in a risky area. We're going to have to reimagine your premium and your policy in general. So those are things that we are seeing in Seattle, in LA, in Portland, in San Francisco on the daily. We're reading stories about that on the daily because this is what's impacting business and not small business, because these aren't, BJ's isn't a small business. That's a decent sized business. I don't know how many locations they've got, but they're like Cracker Barrel. They got a bunch. This is not a small operation. This isn't a mom and pop. This isn't a family run deal. This is millions of dollars of operational costs and infrastructure into the building itself. And they don't want to, just exit stage left and go, see you guys, we're going to just pop up over here in our, in our van, in our, truck, in our food truck, in our taco truck. It's not like that. I mean, it's pretty major. Stanfords announced the closure in a post Saturday on Facebook page for the Hayden Island restaurant, writing that due to recent incidents, the restaurant would be temporarily closed to ensure the safety and security of our guests and our team. All right, and they're not coming back. Let's be honest, they're not coming back. So they did something in between what Cracker Barrel did, which just said, not safe, we're leaving. They did, we're gonna watch this. We're gonna see. Amazon has done the same thing in office space in downtown Seattle that's near the Blade. Hey, you know what? We're not going to bring our folks back in this office complex till we see what you've got going on criminal activity wise from our building, because we can literally watch what's going on. And we're probably not going to have our folks move back into this complex unless we see, a drop in criminal activity. And so temporarily, we will not be having employees occupy this building. You got a lot of that going on out there because people are like, well, we don't want to come right out and say this sucks, donkey, you know what? Can't have that. No, we can't just, admit that. And so they go down the temporary road, we're temporary closing. Our business needs are not being met. I find that just such double speak. It's like, hey, it's so dangerous. We can't operate here. We got to shut her down. Just be brutally honest. But people don't want to hear brutally honest in business, because that means, oh my gosh, we're going to, we're admitting there's a problem. Somebody's going to have to deal with this problem. And in business and in real estate, you've always got the PR portion of it, which is, okay, I own a real estate company and we appraise homes also, not the same company, but we're out there selling homes in neighborhoods that are being impacted by the homeless. And I talk very openly about that. And so it's kind of like, all right, how do we pitch this one? All right, so this is, close proximity to the freeway and homeless encampments. You try and spin it that way. But these big companies, they're better off just exit stage left in case they do ever come back. Hey, you didn't, kick us when we were down. We've squared things away a little bit here, and it's all good. Would you come back and sign another big corporate lease and spend a few $1,000,000 getting this, your new restaurant up and running? Pretty please. Is that going to happen? Probably not, but corporate always wants to have that option, right? Corporate always wants to have the option. So they never typically say, you know what? We had this, and this happen. Therefore, we're out of here. You might have small businesses do that, because small businesses, when they leave, they know they're never coming back. So the message described the closure at Stanfords, but did not give any indication of how long it expected to last. KGW reached out to Stanfords for more info. So they literally, okay, so here's the plywood. Here's the plywood on the exterior of where it's been broken down, right? And they just basically stick a note to it. All right, we're gone. We're out of here. We're leaving. We're not coming back. Good riddance. So this is going on in a big scale. It's not happening everywhere in Portland, But in downtown Portland, you've certainly got your areas that are boarded up and are not working well as far as coming back after the pandemic. This area here on Jantzen Beach area of Hayden Island, it's not looking good either, right? It's just, yeah, this is not happening. So what's going to happen moving forward? What we are watching is we are watching the opposite of gentrification, which is money coming into an area being developed, it getting better. Some people say, it's not better. We're losing all the cultural heritage of this area. Well, areas become desirable over time. Other areas become less desirable over time. This is one of those areas that is on the downswing. It's having a rough time. And what's it going to take to make this area safe? I mean, more police? No, good luck with that. You still got the same number of people running around doing their thing. And we know that you're not going to be able to get a massive number of police into the system in a short period of time. So there really isn't anything to prevent what you've got going on here. Are people going to self-regulate and say, hey, you know what? We just need to be better individuals. Nah, this is based on drugs. Let's be honest. This is based on drugs. You've got a proliferation of drug activity and of the individuals who sell said drugs, and then the people stealing to get their next fix. You've got this whole ecosystem going on. And then you've also got the situation where your ability to steal is enhanced in Oregon. It's enhanced in California. It's enhanced in Washington because you've got laws that basically state, you know what? We don't want to penalize you for stealing something small. We don't want to go down that road. And so what's happened is they've basically taken felony shoplifting, made it a misdemeanor, and nobody's prosecuting. And, I think the crime stats are way, way higher than what we're seeing because the vast majority of these incidents don't get reported anymore. I think that's a real reality. So, all right, let's move on to so that's kind of where we sit with those three stores. Here's an article from quite a while ago. It was 2021, but this was one of the precursors to this area kind of falling apart. I don't feel safe. Hayden Island residents frustrated over increasing crime. Interstate 5 running through the island makes it a prime target for all types of property crime. People who live on Hayden Island say the homeless crisis and crime seem to be getting out of hand. They feel crime is rampant, and according to statistics, they're right. Portland Police Bureau data shows crime on Hayden Island is the worst it's been in the last 5 years. Property crimes like theft, burglary, and larceny make up the vast majority. So this is nothing new. So you've got an area that has kind of just pulled in. It's been a target for the homeless community, and the homeless community is based on drugs. And so they got to go out and steal. And so that's why you're seeing these major restaurants just boop, gone. And there's going to be a handful of small businesses left, but not that many. I don't feel safe. And remember, this is 2021. So have things gotten better? No. We just saw 2 major other restaurants close, right? Things have not gotten better. They're going in the wrong direction. And this was, 2021. So has it gotten twice as bad? Has it gotten a third as bad? Probably, something along those lines. Oftentimes, Hayden Island residents say they see stolen kayaks and boats pulled up next to 2 abandoned military vessels in an encampment along Jantzen Beach. That's comforting. The beach guys prowl around the marinas, but they don't steal cars, said resident Howard Johnson. That's where you got to define what you're looking at, who might be doing it. So you've got different elements here that the regular community doesn't have. You're on an island, and so you're surrounded by people who can, bring their boat in and start stealing from your boat, stealing from, whatever stuff you've got going on. The beach guys prowl around the marinas, but they don't steal cars. That's comforting. Police say it's not just the transient population committing crime. Opportunists steal and vandalize, and often they get away with it. Interstate 5 running through the island makes it a prime target. People coming from the south in Oregon or the north in Washington are able to quickly hop on and off the island to commit crimes there or escape being caught. So this is one of those prime locations where it's like on, off, boom, gone. There was a key bank south of where I used to live in another neighborhood in Bellevue, and it was literally like a block away from the on-ramp to Interstate 90 and then 405. I mean, if you rob this bank, you are one block away from getting on multiple different directions, and then within a mile distance or so, getting on, a major north-south freeway. So this bank got robbed a handful of times until they had 24-hour security guard armed brought in, and that seems to have, quelled the issue. But oftentimes it's a matter of how quickly can we get away? Can we make our exit stage left super quick? If we can, let's go there. So location-wise, Hayden Island that we're talking about here is unfortunately, it's a prime target. It just is. To the point where what we're saying is that, yeah, businesses don't want to do business there. Residents see cars without license plates all over the neighborhood and believe they're stolen and brought to the area to be stripped. So you got all kinds of crime going on. I mean, it's no wonder a restaurant like BJ's is just like, yeah, no, not dealing with it. John Seaman is one of them hit by thieves and has security camera videos of people stealing it from his porch in the middle of the night. He said he knows others have had items stolen in the middle of the day. That's becoming normal, isn't it? It's becoming normal. But what's happening is it's becoming more normal in communities that have accepted this kind of thing, that have put politicians in place, and those politicians have enacted legislation that have made the perfect storm for all of this to happen. It's getting worse in those areas. And then other areas that haven't gone down those roads politically or legislature-wise are not suffering. They're suffering a little bit. I mean, there has been a spike in crime across the United States, but in areas where you didn't, decriminalize drugs and didn't make criminal activity of shoplifting and basic thievery, where you didn't just, give the two thumbs up green light to that, those communities, those areas don't have this kind of stuff going on. So it's kind of like you've got this lab experiment going on. What happens if we decriminalize everything? All right, that's what happens. We make this acceptable. All right. And then we defund the police. And we haven't even talked about defunding the police. You've got criminal activity going on in areas, and Portland is down how many hundred police officers? It's a bunch. It's a bunch. I mean, it's just, we've been following that forever. And unfortunately, the way that Oregon has their setup with their training of their officers, they're not going to have officers in there anytime soon. It's like an 18-month, this massive process to get folks in. And so, you're not going to be able to bring the supply of officers up anytime soon. Seattle, same thing. We're just not going to have cops to do what we need to do. And yet we've got these homeless organizations, King County Regional Homeless Authority, Housing Authority, whatever it is, asking for $11.5 billion to build more housing so that they can get these individuals out of these encampments that are wildly addicted to drugs into housing that they're going to tear apart, that we as taxpayers can, continually just keep remodeling so that we can keep these people in there, because there's no qualification for getting into said housing. We want to build just thousands of units of housing. How's that going to work out? Not that well, because everybody kind of knows. You take these folks off the streets, and unless there is some kind of accountability for, getting into mental health care treatment or addiction services, this isn't going to work out. And yet everybody keeps pointing to, we need more housing. All right. And I'm continually saying, no, you need some accountability, because you got this criminal activity just going crazy. You need to tighten up those laws. You need to throw some people in jail. You need to draw the line. But in these areas where this is going on, Portland and Seattle are great examples of cities that have allowed this to happen. LA, another perfect example. San Francisco, another good example. Asheville, North Carolina, just talked about, their crime statistics going through the roof because they kind of went down that whole defund the police thing. And, look at how well that's working out. And I get, messages from you guys all the time saying, I live in this community. We didn't do any of that stuff. And guess what? We don't have those issues. So you've got this direct comparison going on out there, right? Of cities that are, and the cities right now are playing the enormous blame game. And the enormous blame game is, well, that housing authority over there, they got all the money and they only made this many units of housing. So, we're just, and then we blame the Department of Transportation. The governor blames the mayor blames the governor, mayor blames the city council blames everybody. There's just zero accountability. So I'm going to see, before I move on here, I'm going to see if I can get the messages up here again and see what you guys are talking about. No, I don't want to hide chat. Okay, there we are. Greater Idaho. Yeah, that is something that is coming up, right? That's coming up pretty often. And I don't know if you guys have followed this, the Idaho deal, where you've got a portion of eastern and southern Oregon that basically want to secede from the Union, and they want to be brought into Idaho because they identify more with the politics of Idaho than they do with Oregon. And I think a lot of that could be said for state of Washington as well. Our big populated areas have gone down this very blue path, and look at, how exceedingly well that is working out. And, city of Seattle has got an opportunity with their council to fill, it's either 5 or 7 seats. I mean, it's an incredible number of seats. Will the city of Seattle recognize what's going on and how to change it? I don't think so. I think they just want to have what they want to have. They want to have, some politicians that think the way that they do, and they want to ignore that, these politicians are putting policy in place that is causing what's going on around them. So you've got, going back to the fireworks across the freeway, you've got, communities with people, with kids that are screaming about the homeless encampments, but they also voted in, hey, let's bring in these folks that are easy on crime. They're easy on drugs. They're easy on people living everywhere. We want to have compassion for a fellow human being, meaning we want to let people just live willy-nilly wherever the F they want in their tent, do their drugs, do their criminal activity, do their human trafficking. We're okay with that. But now the rubber is hitting the road with a lot of these communities, and they're saying, we don't want this. And it's like, okay, but you voted it in. So which do you want? Well, we didn't really vote all of that in. No, you didn't, but this is what you get. This is what you bought and paid for. Well, we didn't want all of this stuff. Well, yeah, and neither do the other people who are literally moving out of your city in droves to Idaho. We know that's a statistic, right? One of the podcasts I did more recently was on Portland losing a little bit of population. Now, a reporter went back years and years and years trying to tabulate when the last time we had a 2 or 3 year period in Portland, in Oregon, where they lost population. And it hasn't happened on a couple of year rolling basis ever in recent history. You had a couple of, I think it was timber busts in the 70s and 80s where that happened. All right. So you got a downturn there, but now you've got a downturn because people are recognizing, you know what, maybe I don't want to be here. And that's, I hear that from you guys all the time, which is, yeah, I left and I've never turned back, and I don't want to go visit those cities or towns because where I live now is just way better. And the folks identify, with me politically far greater. And so that's why you've got, the whole greater Idaho. Yeah. Portland, how long would it take to dismantle if greater Idaho? 2 years? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I think Portland is already kind of just being dismantled, on its own right now. See what else you guys are talking about. Why does half the state have to exist? Kick Seattle out. Well, where are you going to put them? I get what you're saying. Take Portland, put it into the ocean. Take Seattle, put it into the ocean. But there's such huge driving economic factors for the rest of the state that basically you're stuck with them. So the real question is does everybody else want to, leave the union? They want to secede from the union? Yes, they do. But I think we're a long ways away from that happening. I don't think that'll happen. I don't think that'll happen in my lifetime. I really don't. I think population changes will happen, but I don't think you'll have that kind of thing happen to that extent. And I think going back to the comment, Portland, how long would it take to dismantle? Portland is being dismantled right now on a tax basis, right? You've got so many buildings, so many businesses not coming back to downtown. I mean, right here, we just named 3 big ones, right? What is the tax revenue that Portland has lost, that Oregon has lost, in essence, from these businesses leaving? It's a bunch. And these aren't the only ones. We've talked about all kinds of businesses leaving. It's just the direction it's going for these areas. And yet, you still got these polls where people are like, the top 5 places to live, Portland and Seattle are consistently in those polls from a livability standpoint and, occupation, job employment, all these other things. And, increasing real estate prices. Prices are still going up here in Seattle. Before I did this podcast, I was watching a real estate broker that I know, and he was talking about not only are we having a real estate market get extra heated up early here in Seattle from the standpoint of price escalations and accelerated clauses, from the standpoint you got so many offers coming in. Sellers are literally at a point where they're doing offer reviews again, which is an indication of an overheated market. You've got not enough supply and you got too many people coming in. So you've still got demand way outstripping supply in areas like Seattle and Portland. It's just happening because so many people still want to live here from the job standpoint. Are they living in the downtown cores? No, they're not going to the big high-rise condos. That's kind of those people are kind of hunkered down. But they're going to the outer lying communities, and those outer lying communities, they oftentimes have homelessness, and people are like, it's okay. We're okay with that. So, I think the people that are going to leave, and the people that love this kind of lifestyle, with the exception of people with kids where, you got homeless encampments that are shooting fireworks off into the, the main freeway. If that doesn't send a message to the mayor, hey, you should probably shut that encampment down. You should probably kill that bad boy and just do the whack-a-mole and move those people somewhere else, right? But at least when you clear out those encampments, when you do that, at least it gives that community a little bit of breathing room. But you know what it does? It puts the pressure on another community that you've moved those people to. So until you start dealing with the underlying issues, which is basically drug addiction and all the criminal activity that, unfolds from that, till you start dealing with that, expect much of the same. That's kind of my thought. I mean, why would this just go away? It's not going to. All right, let's see what else you guys are talking about. America, the next Detroit. Yeah, some of these cities, and I would agree with you, a lot of these areas are looking like Detroit, but then you've got employment that kind of overrides that. You might say Seattle, last one out to turn off the lights. That was the Boeing, the last big Boeing bust, where we went from, 116,000 employees down to 38,000 employees. Couple of real estate brokers, last one, out of Seattle, turn out the lights. With that story, what people don't often tell you is like the following spring after that massive bust happened, Boeing kind of got back on the train and hired another 75,000 people. And it just, that boom bust cycle. Whereas Detroit, car manufacturing, those jobs are gone. Textiles and steel in Pennsylvania, those jobs are gone. despite what our fearless leader tells us about we're bringing jobs back. Well, yeah, I don't think you are. Businesses aren't generating here because the climate isn't there for that. International business, you bet. That's happening all day long because you got people willing to work for $3 an hour or 50 cents an hour, whatever, in some sweatshop. Those are economics. So we're battling that. But yeah, America, the next Detroit. Evansville is another one. Youngstown, Chicago. Yeah, these are all cities that, have major issues. And then there's other cities that seem to be doing just fine. Boise, Idaho, it seems to be thriving. Their biggest complaint in Boise, Idaho is don't bring any more of your riffraff and their ideals into our community. Stay the F out. That's, and we're going to open carry. And that's their legal right to do so, right? That's their legal right to do so. Now, the downtown core in Boise, it's going to have a little bit of blue in it, but that's essentially downtown core of just about any city, right? Except you get into some of the hardcore and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, we're pretty much red here, pretty much red through and through. All right, so here's that agencies reveal plan to address problematic encampment under Ship Canal Bridge in Seattle. This is a big encampment that I've talked about people literally running across the freeway. Yeah, people running across the freeway. And it's close to schools. It's in a good neighborhood. My boat is where I have my boat is literally blocks from this area. So I see this stuff fairly often. I see the RVs. I see the needles. I see the stuff going on. It's just, all right, if we're going to deal with this is what we're going to do, But if you are in a community where you've got children going to a school and you're going past a homeless encampment that is just off the rails, and that's what this one is. This is the biggest one I know of that Seattle needs to deal with right now. It's getting the most pressure, and I think it is supposed to be cleared out in a couple of weeks. Following months of safety issues at a homeless encampment under the Ship Canal Bridge, agencies responsible for housing the people who live there and cleaning up the areas have revealed some details of their plan. Go in and clean it up. Or, hey, how about this? Don't ever let it begin to start with kind of how we handle things here in Bellevue. Don't let it start, because once it starts, it gets out of control. And the residents seem to think, hey, this is a good idea. Or, we're very compassionate, until you get a 30 tent encampment where they have shootings, fires, and fireworks going on to the freeway. So over the past several months, there have been several safety issues reported at the encampment, including 2 shootings, one of which was fatal, and most recently a fire on Saturday night, this last Saturday. Big fire. And we had another fire last night, fireworks. Residents reported hearing what they thought were propane tanks exploding. Well, that's because propane tanks were exploding. Huh. Yeah. But I mean, the encampments are mostly safe, except for the guy running around with a sword or an axe. I mean, Seattle Fire Department said tents and propane tanks were involved in the fire Saturday night, and no injuries were reported. Oh, that's a relief. But it's the latest incident in a list of safety concerns raised by residents and nearby business owners. The complaints also include parents of students at John Stanford International School, an elementary school that sits a half block west of the encampment. I mean, all right, little Johnny, don't look over there. Look over here. We need to get you into class. What are they doing? What's that, man? Why does the man not have any pants on? The encampment borders both sides of I-5 express lanes, Wallingford on one side and the University District on the other side. All right, University District is UW, where I went to school. Didn't graduate because I couldn't find the point in graduating with a degree in political science. It made no point to me. So I dropped out halfway through my junior year and never looked back. Real estate? Yeah, you don't really need a college degree. It's kind of one of those things. I did take enough classes, though, to do what I needed to in life and get by. U District, always been kind of a train wreck. Now it's rough. Wallingford, it's on the other side of this major freeway system. Nice area. And yet, yeah. It's a residential area where people are getting upset that little Johnny has to see, Mr. Homeless Encampment resident doing crazy stuff. So we're getting to that point. It's referred to as the Pasadena encampment by regional partners because of one of the nearby cross streets is Pasadena Place Northeast. Saturday's fire occurred near Pasadena Place Northeast and Northeast 42nd Street. So one of the fires, I think it happened like 2 weeks ago. They found a guy that had been shot inside the tent, burning up. I mean, if that doesn't tell city officials, hey, maybe you need to shut this bad boy down. Maybe you need to do a little sweep here. And then last night, literally after a safety meeting by parents for this school that I just read about, another big fire and fireworks. I just find that so appropriate. What are you doing with fireworks in your tent? I mean, what are you going to, what holiday are you going to celebrate? Are you a big Kansas City fan and you're going to celebrate Kansas City winning the Super Bowl with some fireworks? I mean, what are you doing? Fireworks in your tent? So many questions, so few answers, right? Como News has repeatedly asked what's being done to address the community's concerns. Washington State Department of Transportation has said the state agency is acting with urgency, working with its regional partners to address the encampment. Yeah, urgency. How many people have died there? A handful. How many fires have happened? How many other, acts of physical violence? How many drugs are being sold? Fireworks, people running across the freeway. I mean, just some really sketchy, dangerous stuff. And yet we're acting with a sense of urgency. Well, all right. Well, I'm not seeing the urgency here. Seattle's Mayor Bruce Harrell has insisted the encampment is a high priority. And he's working with state agencies, including Department of Transportation, which owns the property, to help the encampment's residents and address safety concerns. Here's the deal. These cities are overrun. They don't have the resources to clear all this stuff out all the time, everywhere. They can only do so much. We've already got an encampment scheduled for clearing out here. Got one here, got one there. This one's on the list. This is a big one. This is going to take some time. We're going to have to send outreach there. And, so it's kind of like CHOP. It took a while to get to the point where Mayor Durkin said, yep, no, we're going to shut this bad boy down. And when that decision was made, boom, it happens, right? But with the encampment situation, you got to have people out there doing, we'd like to get you into housing. Nobody ever accepts. I shouldn't say nobody. I'll say one or two people will accept some kind of offer of housing, maybe a temporary stay in a hotel from this encampment sweep. But, and I'll read the story. I'll read it for you. I'll tell you exactly what happened. But nobody ever wants to come out of an encampment like this and get into, the housing that they're offered because of, rules and such. So Kent County Regional Homeless Authority is handling the outreach on site. And after 2 weeks of asking for answers, the agency shared more specific details Monday about what's being done to address the safety concerns and help the encampment's residents. They think there's 30 individuals. I'd say there's way more than that from what I've seen from the exterior. So yeah, we've got that. All right. So it's literally underneath the freeway. Let's see if we've got some photos here. No, don't have a ton of photos. Let's just move right on into, I want to watch the fireworks. Let's watch the fireworks. Okay. This might take me a second to get fireworks up. These ads. All right. We have a paid subscription, but it's not on this channel. And so here we go. All right. So here's fireworks. You can see traffic going over. All right. You got a big fire going on inside. Big fire. All right. Those flames are damn high. Those tents in there are just, see the billowing smoke? All right. Here comes fireworks. Oh, yeah. All right. There we go. Yep. Okay. People are going slow. All right. Yeah, just shooting out there. It's almost just like shooting them out a window, right? Oh, they shot some inside. And you can see the fireworks going off on the interior underneath the freeway. This is just, if that isn't insanity, I don't know what is. If that doesn't scream out to a mayor, all right, you need to close that bad boy down because you've already had so many issues and you've got meetings going on, and everybody's just kind of like, them, and the encampment still goes on. So what we're saying is between Cracker Barrel and City of Seattle, not Cracker Barrel, but BJs and the restaurant deal, you've got situations where cities are basically just overrun. They don't know what to do. They don't have the firepower. They don't have the manpower, women power to basically put a dent in this. And you know what? It is what it is because you put these folks in place that made the policy that allows this to happen. So, what I always say is you get what you pay for. And if you're willing to deal with that, if not, get out of Dodge. Kind of like BJ's is doing, kind of like Cracker Barrel did. But the residents who are living in close proximity to this encampment, they have the right to move. And we're hearing, story after story after story down in Portland of people saying, you know what, I'm a diehard Portland person, but about a third of their residents, just like a third of the residents down in San Francisco, say that they are planning on moving within the next 2 years unless things get better. Kind of like Cracker Barrel. All right, we're going to temporarily do an exit stage left here. We're temporarily going to move. We're not really sure what the deal is, but we're going to temporarily take a little leave of absence for the area. We're going to allow this area to come back and gentrify itself. You've got the capacity of the cities, the capacity of these counties, the capacities of these states. They're not in a position to be able to handle everything. And that's why you've got this stuff that's just wildly out of control, because they don't have the ability to really get a handle on it. They have the ability to get on handle on individual areas and neighborhoods, clean those up. But when you've still got the same folks running around, you're just pushing those people around. Their criminal activity is just going to move from one neighborhood to another. There's people living underneath this encampment. You move them out, move a handful of them into housing. All right. They're going to be right back out to what they're doing already in this encampment, almost immediately. So do I have a lot of hope for, these areas of Seattle that have come under, increasingly difficult safety concern issues? It's going to take a long time. And to get at the root cause, it's not a housing issue. It's a addiction issue, and it's a criminal activity issue. So until you start to address some of those, and, let's not forget the whole mental issue. You got people running around communities that just flat shouldn't be doing just crazy stuff. On the private channel, I talk about some of these situations fairly consistently because they are so violent and they are so crazy. That's on reasonabletv.com. They're so crazy that those issues, you can't even raise them on a regular platform like you're watching this live stream. You can't do it because you're probably, you're going to be, number one, demonetized immediately, and you may take a strike to your channel because some of the content is so shocking. But that's what's going on out there. That's literally what you've got going on. And then you've got good people like you that tune into my program to kind of see what the nonsense is going on out there and to assure yourself, hey, at least I'm not dealing with that. And you'd be correct. But you know what I always say? You got to look at the glass half full. I've got podcasts for years coming. Years. Right? I just do. All right. Let's take a look and see what else we've got. Comment wise, kind of take a quick peek here, and high real estate commissions. True, Sean. High taxes mean good schools and good property values. You know what's interesting about that? Once property values fall, they must move to preserve value. You know what? And in these areas, property values are not falling. They are not dropping. And that's because unlike Detroit, unlike Philadelphia, where you've lost those industries, we've still got crazy amounts of jobs coming into our areas. We just do. So housing prices haven't fallen, but in your Chicago's, in some of those neighborhoods, South Side and West Side, you got some issues there. But in Philadelphia and some of these other cities that, were just devastated by the change in economics, yeah, those property values fall. And when those property values fall, it takes the tax base with them and it just wipes things out. So that's a little bit, that's where things get confusing in like Los Angeles. You're going to have some neighborhoods that'll have some decline, but there's still so much in the way of jobs and employment in those areas, and also desirability, like Venice Beach. If you watch German in Venice, you've got this epic scene going on, on one of the most beautiful beaches there in North America. And then you've got all these homeless folks, and it just creates this dichotomy, but people still want to live there. But folks feel like their tax dollar isn't going towards what it should be. I've talked multiple times about the Castro district in San Francisco, and businesses there made made the headlines from the standpoint of, we don't want to pay our taxes. This isn't worth it. And part of the population loss in Portland was due to the fact that their upper end earners are paying similar tax rates to the earners of, 25 million plus in New York City. That's how much in taxes people in Portland are paying. And look at what they're getting back. They're getting back their own communities losing restaurants and basically having, multiple break-ins consistently, and a police force that they can't hobble together because you defunded the police. And, some of what Biden said in his State of the Union speech, at the beginning of that speech, when he started talking about public safety, I was like, well, he's going to cut his own throat here on this whole policing issue. And then he kind of did an about turn and kind of saved himself from the standpoint of, the vast majority of police are okay. And that is true. If you look at numerically, what some communities need to fear police? No, on a statistic basis, they need to fear each other. They need to fear each other. And, on a true data standpoint, that is wildly true. What we get is we get one or two of these incidents that come up every now and then. And then, we don't hear the big outcry when a cop gets killed. We don't hear that, do we? No, we just hear it the other way around. And so, you've got these situations where it's like, okay, yeah, but Biden had to do his whole thing. That State of the Union speech, I did do a reaction to that. That's on our private channel because, I just put it there because taking heat on this channel for basically reporting just the news. And the news sometimes has drug addiction. It's got some violence. Sometimes you got people that end others' lives. And, mainstream media just wants to have fluffy news stories. And I'm sorry, that's not what we're doing here. We're covering some hard topics. And on a consistent basis, this channel is having difficulties with moving stories along. And so a lot of the stuff that I used to report here is now on the private channel. And that's been a concerted effort. That is, that's something that I've had to do. And I don't like to do it. I'd much rather share it with you guys here on this open platform. But we're going to have a bunch of raffles and a bunch of contests so that we're going to give away a bunch of subscriptions to the paid channel. It's $10 a month, but I know folks are on a budget. I know a lot of people are on fixed income. And hey, your returns right now on fixed income, those have gone up with interest rates going up. And I'm afraid those are going to come down just a scooch. And they've probably already come down a scooch. But with the way interest rates are going, and that's part of what is driving, the real estate market, is we've had interest rates drop from about 7% down to 9%. I know I'm bouncing all over, on these topics with you, but they all tie together. And so, yeah, we've got high real estate commissions and we've got high taxes. And a lot of folks are saying, hey, we're not getting what we paid for. This isn't the bargain that we thought we were getting. And a lot of folks want to say, you know what, my house isn't worth this. And you're like, well, what did you pay? Well, I paid that, but I don't want to have that reflected in my taxes. Taxes are based on assessed value, and assessed value is based on market value. It's based on a percentage of market value. So if you're at 90%, if your area and your millage rate is such where you're at 90% of market value and you've had 40% increase in your home price in the last 4 years, let's just say, some communities here in Western Washington have had a 35% increase in a 24-month period. your taxes are going to go through the roof. Are you going to get back those taxes in, more policemen? Probably not. Probably not. So what's government doing with all your money? Man, they're not clearing out the jokers from underneath the encampment bridge, are they? No. I've thought about going over there and live streaming when they clear out that, because that'll be a big deal. But then, I'm talking to you about the KGW, their news crew out literally witnessing a dude get shot in some kind of argument, probably a drug argument, and then the guy limping off into the woods. And then I have that in the back of my mind, and I'm like, you know what? My office right where I'm sitting right now is pretty safe. There's not a lot of shootings that occur here. So, do I want to put myself in that situation? I might figure something out and go over there, because that'll be a wild one to clear out, because those people are hunkered down. They are literally underneath the freeway. I mean, just living situation like that. So hardcore. Who wants to do it? The only way you can survive doing that is if you are just high as a kite all day long, and this is your option. That's the only way I can see that happening. And, you watch enough content here and you read enough news stories, you come to understand, all right, that's how they get through living in these encampments, because things are not perfect by any means. Inflation, mostly reason for property values. The property values have gone up. Inflation, to me, was a massive issue of dumping trillions of dollars into the economy. And that's why they wanted to tell us that it was going to be temporary. But, you dump trillions of dollars, and then you have the Inflation Reduction Act, which in my opinion was the Inflation Production Act. It produced inflation. I didn't see any way with that program to spin that as a reduction. But, we're changing all kinds of definitions and terms and things. So, okay, all right. So inflation to me had to do with, you got strong demand for all these goods. You don't have a lot of these goods because you had supply chain issues. You dumped trillions of dollars into the economy. And then housing was a separate issue. Housing took off the minute the pandemic started, because all of a sudden interest rates dropped. We were already having a pretty good real estate market. And I, along with my office manager, who's been around, she was literally working at Boeing during all those Boeing busts, to kind of give you a time frame. I was just born. She was working at Boeing. And so she's seen all this stuff come and go, just like I have. And when the pandemic hit and we had one of our businesses shut down for a split second, and then the other was opened up, I was thinking, hey, real estate's going to absolutely tank. It's going to absolutely croak. But the opposite happened, is because interest rates dropped, and because of the pandemic with people staying at home, all of a sudden they're looking around going, you know what? If I can telecommute wherever I want from, and I've got a job where I can do that, because a lot of these were tech jobs, especially here in the Pacific Northwest. If I can communicate and I need more space, and I've talked about this 100 times, if we're going to do the gym at home, if we're going to do schooling at home, if we're going to do pets running around, if we're going to have friends over every now and then, even though we're not supposed to, we need a bigger house. And so those kind of circumstances just lit the housing market on fire. We went from shut down in March 15th, state shut down. April, not a pretty market for real estate. But by May, we were absolutely screaming. Real estate was. And, people were buying left and right, taking out home equity loans because they wanted to do these big remodels. Because, we were going to be stuck in our homes for years until we weren't. But most of that has cycled through. And people are now selling homes further out and moving closer in, because guess what? Their bosses are saying, we need you to come back to the office. I'm going to need you to work on Saturday. If you don't mind coming in on Saturday. Love that movie. So that's kind of, that's the way things have happened. And now more recently, I think you've got the real estate market. It never got to the point where we got a lot of inventory on the market, because it's still a pretty tight market. We've got a lot of layoffs going on. Yes. But if you look at the big percentage of those layoffs, pretty small. You might have 10,000 by Amazon, but if they have 190,000 or whatever throughout the world, pretty small numbers in comparison to the big picture. And oftentimes you'll have an Amazon or a Facebook or whatever, fire some people. And here in Seattle, we'll have like a couple hundred lose their job, but they are immediately picked up by somebody else. Same thing down in Portland. You've just got a tech community that is pretty resilient, whereas, some of your actual production of goods and, steel being one. We're not bringing those back because those businesses are not feasible to ramp up in today's 2023 America. Not seeing that happen. We're hearing things talk about that. We're bringing jobs back, but it's like, really? How are you doing that? Because so much of this stuff is now based on international trade. And that's why Trump had such a big, issue with the bad deal we were getting with China. It was absolutely right. Absolutely right. But everybody was like, that orange man bad and he's racist, without, really digging into the data. Some of the things, I know I'm just rambling here, but this is, end of a live stream, and that's what we do. Some of the other issues I saw within the State of the Union address were just real head scratchers. It's like, you're going to go down that road? Like Republicans wanting to eliminate Medicare and Social Security. It's like, no, the really good one that I thought was funny is that President Biden came literally right out and said, we're going to need to have fossil fuels for at least another decade, another 10 years. All I could think of is, and people laughed. People literally laughed out loud. I don't know if you caught that. That to me was probably the second best part, because 10 years is ridiculous. We're going to have reliance on fossil fuels for decades moving forward. It's just, maybe we tear it down. Maybe we don't. I did buy an electric chainsaw. It's epic. Ego. Yeah, I really like it. But I'm not going to buy an electric car. And just not going down that road. But a chainsaw, yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it, but I'm not. That's not really me. I do it because it's a better product and it makes sense. And running a gas-powered chainsaw is, it's something I don't really need to do anymore. When I was a kid, yeah, it was fun to crank that up and all that blue smoke go up into the sky and just you make your neighbors, routinely upset with just pulling the trigger on, whatever 18-inch chainsaw. I mean, that's like riding the mini bike around, right? Let's see how upset we can make the neighbors. But, Biden came out and said, we're going to have to rely upon fossil fuels for at least 10 more years. And people are like, whoa. The other epic deal was Marjorie Taylor Greene just shouting out, liar, liar. And she brings in her white balloon. I don't know if you caught that part. She brought in a white balloon. It's just an innocent white balloon. And it looked just like that Chinese balloon that was a spy balloon. It's just a little white balloon. It's what we're doing. All right. That's it from me. Thank you so much. We've actually got another video shoot going on here. So we do some real estate stuff. I just rather do this with you guys. So thank you so much for being here. And we're going to do some raffles. So if you want to check out, we're going to have some opportunities for people to get membership to the private site, because I'm putting a lot of content on there, because that's reasonabletv.com, because I can't put it elsewhere, if you know what I mean. All right. That's it for me. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for everybody that participates regularly. Got a handful of super fans out there. So thank you so much. And for those of you already subscribing to the paid subscription channel, Reasonable TV, much appreciated. All right. I will catch up with you next. I might do a live stream tomorrow, but for sure, I think we're going to do Tuesday and Thursday. So if not, I will see you then. And I'm also on here just about every weekday, Monday through Friday. I participate in the premieres. I'm there, not in person. I'm there in person, but chatting. So if you want to hit me up there. Also, don't forget our Reasonable Plus Discord channel. We got all kinds of stuff going on, and we're just getting ramped up. So thanks again for joining and being part of this process. Much appreciated. Bye for now. Now I got to figure out